What is going on, everyone? We've got Josh Aguiar here today on the Laptop Empire Show. This is episode number 28, and this is the show that teaches digital marketing entrepreneurs how to build and grow a business from anywhere in the world. Josh, what is going on, man? Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, Brian. Pleasure to be here, my man. Been a while since we spoke, so I'm looking forward to speaking to you on this call.
Yeah, and not only is Joss an incredible marketer and interviewer, I was on his show a couple weeks back, he is also a member of the Laptop Empire Lab. So thank you so much, man. It is awesome to have people like you in that community.
Love you being there, man. Brian, so what are we talking about today?
Yeah, so it's funny. We're talking about interviews, and why that's funny is I just got off of an interview a couple of minutes ago where we were talking about interviews, and he asked me what my number one thing was if I had to start over and build connections, what I would do, and it's interviews. And it's so funny that now today I have you here on the show, and you have done over 100 interviews with different entrepreneurs, which is awesome. So congratulations on that. And why I wanted to bring you on to the show was so you can kind of share a little bit about how you do that, why you think it's important, and how other people can do the same. But before we dive into that, why don't you tell us a little bit about your business, maybe how you got it to this point?
Awesome. So we're a digital marketing agency, mostly focusing with small business owners. So 500K to 10 mil is kind of the sweet point that we found. Mostly that comes in two things. We do branding and we do advertising services. So websites, all the tech side, hook it all up, make it look nice and shiny, and then actually help them get some customers and clients. That's the short and sweet version of what we do at Press Play 360.
Cool, man. And for people who might not be in the same position as we are, we have established businesses, maybe just share a short, quick story about what you were doing before that or how you kind of got to that point. I'm always interested in that.
Okay, before I got into the digital marketing space, I was actually doing a face-to-face sales. So knocking on doors, working in shopping centers, all that fun stuff. That's actually why I think I've been able to transition online so well. And that's what gave me that sales ability and ability to connect with people. So
that's awesome. I'm envious of you. And I always tell people this, if you had a sales job before you get into marketing, like you have so much more of an advantage because you just understand how to go get sales. So I definitely envy that because I never learned that skill. I had to force myself how to figure out sales instead of someone else telling me and forcing me to do it. So,
awesome.
But yeah, so I, again, have you here today because I want to talk about interviews and, why you think they're important. And just get into a little bit about that.
Okay, so a little context of why we actually started doing this show in the first place. I was having a lot of amazing conversations with people. We just had, I think, about a year of conversations going, I wish we were recording this. This is a really good conversation. I'm sure other people would like to be hearing this. Eventually, we actually started pressing the record button and it became a show. The reason why I think it's so important though is this. When you're working with people who are of amazing caliber and you're talking to them, you've got something called trust transference. So when other people see that you've worked with someone else they respect, a bit of their respect will rub off on you, whether you've said anything or the caliber of questions you're asking as well. Plus, it's a really good way for you to learn how to ask better questions. Just in life skill, if you're learning how to ask better questions, better quality, getting better answers out of people, you're going to do better with your own client interactions. You can go better with your family interactions. Anything you do is going to have better quality just by asking better questions.
Yeah, and I agree. Since I've started this show, I've gotten a lot better at asking questions and also interrupting people in the middle of answering them. So go ahead.
And finally, just the ability to take one interview, you can use it in so many different places for your marketing. Something I personally haven't used anywhere as much as I could yet. I'm starting to use that now after 100 episodes. But
yeah. Do you have a podcast? Have you taken that and turned it into audio? Because that's what I really need to do.
That's what I'm doing right now. I've been doing video interviews, which, again, do video, put that up on Facebook, or do just an audio upload to Facebook using the live feature. You're going to get huge reach and bring in new audiences by attracting their people as well. Do it on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, your own website, turn that audio into a transcription using something like rev.com, turn that into a blog post, take the main points, turn it into graphics. There's a million different ways you can use that one piece of content. So it's just a brilliant marketing tool.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And it's funny, one of the first things you said and the reasons why it's important, that trust transference. Um, I just did an episode of Laptop Empires today before we got on this interview. And that was the fifth tip that I shared on building a personal brand, which is collaborating with influencers in your space so their influence rubs off on you and other people see that you're working with them. So we're on the same track right there for sure, man.
Well, that's something you've done really well with the webinars you've done.
Yeah, I some of the people I've connected with, but it's interesting, man. Like I had this conversation recently too. Like if you don't, or if you go like and try and pitch someone like, hey, I want to sell your list something like, and it should be obvious, but it just doesn't work like at all. Like it should be obvious, but it's really not to people who are just starting out. And when I started just saying, hey, let me fill a need that I've noticed you have, and I don't expect anything in return, that opens so many more doors. So like my webinars with SEMrush, like I got one and they loved it, so I get to do them as many times as I want now.
Value exchange 101.
Yeah.
Even when you're getting guests on, what's in it for them? Why would they want to be on your show? What are you doing to bring value to them? Especially if they do have an audience, if they do have that trust with their people, they don't want to expose their audience to rubbish.
Yeah, and so, well, what do you do about that? How do you, let's start at the very, very beginning. What would you say to people to get them on to the show? And a lot of people, it could just be as simple as asking, like it is with you and I. But maybe working your way up to the bigger fish. What did you have to do to make it worth their while?
Okay, initially I was kind of, say, lucky. I did have a foot in because I had already worked with a lot of people just on the back end of things. But to get some of the bigger names afterwards, it was two things. Add value to them first. So actually, like you said, ask. That's the biggest thing there is if you don't ask, you're never going to get it. Show them that they're not the first person to do it. So other people are interested, or you've actually got some credence to what you've done, and tell them a bit about what the show is for. So another thing I've actually found really good, if you want to get people who are really big names, look for times where you can help them. So a lot of these guys are creating books, they're creating courses, they're creating programs. Try and line up with just before they're about to launch that. So when they're in launch mode, they're more likely to be reciprocative of doing interviews. So that's the perfect time. So if you go to Amazon.com and see when the new releases are coming, connect with those guys, especially the people that you really want to interview.
That's an awesome, really actionable tip. So just basically identify the people who are launching anything, and then they're obviously going to be more open to doing interviews and promoting that.
Yeah, that or using your own audience. Generally, people in our space have some sort of a network. Ask people you already know, hey, who do you think would be awesome for me to interview?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been trying to do that more. I do that with clients. Like I always ask for referrals, but it's funny, I forget to do that with, and I don't like using the word influencers because they're like, they are influencers, but it's not like, to them they're not, like they're normal people and they want to be treated like that. They don't want to be like a celebrity. Maybe some of them, but who have big egos. But I haven't met one person who's wants to be called an influencer. Not that it's a bad thing, it's just something they kind of are. So it's an interesting way to kind of position yourself, not to approach them as an equal, but just not like you're, awestruck.
I think that's what they appreciate too, because if you had this weird vibe about it, it's not going to be a good interview.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a good call. It's not going to be a relationship, because the value for me in the interviews isn't the interview itself. It's everything that comes afterwards, that relationship that you've opened up.
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny, the summit that I was just a part of today, I hadn't done a lot of research on him before I joined it. I just trusted the guy who referred me. And then I did some research after that today, and he's, done multiple TED Talks, has books, all this stuff. So it was funny that, kind of nice that I didn't know that about him, because maybe I wouldn't have just focused on what he was talking to me about or shared what I thought, but maybe I would focus more on him. So that was really good. But yeah, man. So tell me, and people watching this, if you, how do you typically approach people? Are you just shooting a message on Facebook, or your friend requesting them? Are you getting in their world, like liking their stuff and commenting? How are you kind of building a relationship before you go for the ask, or are you just going for the ask?
Typically, I'll go through Facebook, send them a message if I like the stuff. Like yourself, I had seen you showing your ads. You actually had really good content. And I sent a message, hey man, I love what you're doing. Would you be interested in doing an interview? It's not weird. It's just a straight, simple ask. And I told you a little bit about what the show is and who we reach as an audience.
Do you, what's your, if you could say like half of the people take you up on that, like most people take you up on that?
Most people take me up on that. I don't think I really had too many no's.
That's awesome. I think once you get to that point.
The only thing I'll preface that with some of the really big names, I've had to wait a little while before we can actually tee up that interview.
Yeah, but it's crazy, man. Like for people who want to do this, what you're hearing right now is not really that difficult to do it. People want to connect. I mean, if you just approach them in a way where that's what you have no other intentions, you want to connect. And if, like you said, down the road, the relationship can turn into something mutually beneficial, or you could help them, they could help you. I mean, that happens. But if you just do this enough, connecting with all these people is really, really beneficial for your business. So what would you say, what types of benefits, or what benefits, if you can think of them specifically, have connecting with these people done for you in your business?
Like I said before, it's trust. People trust. So when they see me, I've had so many people have become clients later that have said to me, I saw you do an interview with so-and-so 6 months ago. I've been following you ever since.
Yeah.
Things like that. Things like the actual people I've worked with, done the interviews with, they've actually ended up becoming clients as well, just because the relationship has formed through that conversation. And many of them even start sending referrals to me as a byproduct of having that initial conversation with them. And again, just increasing the reach and influence. It's when you do this stuff, more people are going to be dragged into your world. It's a slower approach, but it works.
Yeah, and I think, when you don't have a lot of money to invest or time, even though this does take, you say time, it's not huge investments of time, like you're entering, products into an e-commerce website, nothing like that. Like it just takes time to build real relationships with people, but it's not a heavy investment on your time. But when you don't have a lot of money and to pay for ads and things like that, I think this is the best route, because you're just essentially tapping into people's audiences.
Not just that, if you're looking at it, what it would cost to get consulting from these people, and it's part of what you're doing in this call is finding out some of their best information, best knowledge that they have, and helping share it with others. It is highly valuable to you. Like other people would pay for having it at the same time that you're spending with this person one-on-one.
Yeah, dude, you're absolutely right. And it's crazy to think, like, there's this one guy, Stu McLaren. I've been following his stuff recently to just sharpen up on membership websites. And I would listen to like almost every single podcast that he was featured in, because he would share so many good things that he taught inside of his courses that he might have not shared otherwise, because the interviewer was getting that out of him, or not on purpose, but just how the conversation evolved naturally. So many good things came out of that.
100%.
So, yeah. So let me ask you this, the last question. What, if any, kind of structure do you use for interviews? I've, been trying to get better at this. I'm really not perfect at like nailing the intros and, the exits and all that stuff, but do you have a structure you follow, or is it kind of just free form?
I keep it loose, but there are a few go-to questions I go for. Intros, so generally what I like to do is when speaking to the guest at the beginning, I like to have a little preamble. So we have a little conversation, just to get to know the person, understand how I should be framing the conversation, because often what they've sent you in their bios or what they've sent you before isn't going to be 100% perfect. So I like to get to know the person, see who they are, and see what's the best way to frame the conversation. Then I do the intro. Hey, it's Josh from Press Play 360 or Josh Aguiar Show. Today I'm speaking with guest name and a little bit about them. Then it's, hey, how are you? We get into conversation. It's it's a discussion between the two of us and try and find out the best bits of information from them that can help the audience. So I like to ask questions that'll make them think and make them actually go, what learning did I take from that experience? Because often they'll say something that they haven't necessarily delved deep into it yet. So getting them to think on the show is actually amazing because you can get the really, really good answers. That's kind of why I don't like to have pre-set shows where the guest knows questions. Because when you get them to think, they get these amazing answers that you wouldn't get if you was too scripted.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And when I used to do interviews a while back, and I say a while back, it was only like maybe 2 years ago, I would be just so scripted. I had like this list I just hit, and it wasn't bad. And conversations did evolve organically, and I'm glad I did it because it prepared me to kind of do this. But I'm still getting better. But I've realized, like you said, I kind of have a structure, but let yourself, for our conversation, for example, I knew what we kind of wanted to talk about, but I didn't know the exact questions that we were going to get into. But I love some of the answers and things that you've shared because it's super valuable, and people wanting to do interviews to grow their audience and business and influence, could really benefit from this.
Yeah, that and pausing. I think sorry when you start doing this, you just want to talk. But allowing those pauses actually emphasizes the knowledge that's being shared. It allows the guest to have a bit more of a profound impact when they're speaking. And you can hear it in their voice too, that what's being shared, it comes from the heart, as opposed to it's just a automatic response. Like so many of the guys that are doing lots of podcasts, they'll have default answers and you can hear it when they've done it like 100 times. It's, honestly, as a listener, it's boring. But when you get them to actually engage their brains to start thinking of reasons or start thinking of a response, it actually comes up with these great learnings that are both beneficial to you as the host and beneficial to your audience in terms of what they can learn from the guest.
Yeah, 100%. Well, listen, Joss, I really appreciate you coming onto the show, sharing some of your pieces of advice. I mean, it was really valuable. And again, as a member of the community, it's awesome to have you here sharing this kind of stuff because I think everyone could really learn from it.
Most welcome.
Awesome, guys. Well, we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for watching.